They say there once stood a temple at the center of the world, a place where mortals spoke with the divine. Beneath its marble pillars, shrouded in perfumed smoke, the whispers of destiny echoed from a single voice. Her name was never the same, yet her title never changed. She was the Oracle of Delphi. For over 1,000 years, kings, philosophers, and seekers of every kind journeyed to her sacred seat, desperate for glimpses of truth. They believed she spoke for Apollo, the god of light, prophecy, and higher reason. Yet what few understand is that the oracle's true teachings were never about predicting the future. They were about awakening the soul. Hidden behind her cryptic phrases and veiled answers lay a secret philosophy, one that held the keys to human transformation, self-knowledge, and divine alignment. The oracle's words, inscribed above the temple entrance, carried the first clue: know thyself. But that command was not a simple call for introspection. It was an initiation into a forgotten path, one that led seekers beyond fate itself. In this video, we'll journey beyond myth and history into the mystical heart of Delphi. We'll uncover what the oracle truly taught, truths so profound that ancient initiates guarded them with their lives. You'll discover how her wisdom transcended religion, reaching into the very nature of consciousness, destiny, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. We'll explore why this sacred knowledge was hidden, how it shaped philosophers like Socrates and Plotinus, and what it can teach you about perceiving the world through the eyes of awakened awareness. Because the oracle's temple was not merely a shrine, it was a mirror. Those who came seeking answers found themselves reflected in her mystery. And if you listen closely, her voice still speaks, not from the stones of Delphi, but from within your own being. To understand the Oracle of Delphi, we must first step back into a world that no longer exists, a world where the divine was not distant or abstract, but alive in every mountain, stream, and flicker of flame. High upon the slopes of Mount Parnassus, the temple of Apollo stood as a bridge between heaven and earth. Pilgrims traveled for weeks, sometimes months, to kneel before the Pythia, the chosen priestess who became the living vessel of the god. In the stillness of the temple, she would inhale the vapors rising from a fissure in the earth, entering a trance that blurred the boundaries between human and divine. Her words, often fragmented or poetic, were recorded by priests and interpreted for those who sought her counsel. Yet the power of Delphi was never about mere prediction. It was a system of transformation disguised as prophecy. The ancients believed that Apollo's wisdom was not external revelation, but inner illumination. The oracle was not giving answers, she was awakening perception. Her cryptic responses forced the seeker to look inward, to question, to awaken their own understanding. The true purpose of the Delphic ritual was not to foresee destiny, but to transcend it. This was the essence of the Hellenic mystery, that every human soul was a fragment of the divine, and to know thyself was to remember one's own godhood. This teaching found its way into the heart of Greek philosophy. Socrates called himself the midwife of wisdom, claiming his inner voice, the daimonion, guided him much like Apollo guided the oracle. Plato expanded upon it, describing the soul as a charioteer striving to remember its celestial origins. But as centuries passed, the world began to forget. When empires rose and religions sought order over insight, the living dialogue between humanity and divinity faded. The oracle's temple, once the navel of the world, grew silent. The last Pythia spoke her prophecy in the 4th century CE, declaring that Apollo had left Delphi. Yet her final words held a deeper meaning. For the god's departure symbolized not the death of prophecy, but the withdrawal of the divine voice into humanity itself. The torch of revelation was passed from temple to soul. The sacred center was no longer a mountain. It became the mind and heart of every awakened individual. And this is the forgotten truth of Delphi. The oracle was never meant to be worshipped. She was meant to remind us that we are the oracles of our own destiny. The temple was but a reflection of the temple within, the inner sanctuary where intuition, insight, and the voice of the divine still whisper. It is there, in that silence between thoughts, that the same wisdom awaits those who dare to listen. When seekers came to Delphi, They did not simply arrive at a temple, they crossed a threshold. Before entering, they were required to purify themselves in the Castalian spring, washing away the dust of the world and the residue of illusion. It was more than a ritual of cleansing, it was a symbolic death. Only by shedding who they believed themselves to be could they approach the divine mirror that awaited them within. The first and most sacred inscription carved into the temple stones read, "Know Thyself, know thyself." To the uninitiated, it sounded simple, but to the mystics of Delphi, it was the most difficult command ever uttered. For to truly know thyself meant to pierce through the false layers of identity, personality, memory, and role, to touch the essence that is eternal, the part untouched by circumstance or time. The oracle's riddles were crafted to provoke that realization. When a king asked whether he would win a war, she might reply, "A great empire will fall." To the impatient, this seemed vague or evasive. But to the wise, it was a mirror. The question was never about the empire, it was about which empire, the outer kingdom or the inner one. The oracle was teaching through paradox, forcing seekers to look beyond literal outcomes and into the architecture of their own consciousness. Delphic teaching revolved around three sacred principles: self, measure, and destiny. The first, self, was the realization that human beings are not separate from the cosmos but microcosms of it. Every law that governs the heavens also governs the soul. To know oneself is to decode the entire universe written in miniature. The second measure, derived from another inscription at Delphi, Medenagon, nothing in excess. Balance was not merely moral restraint, it was cosmic alignment. The Greeks believed that every soul contained both Apollo, order, clarity, light, and Dionysus, ecstasy, chaos, shadow. The oracle's wisdom sought the harmony of opposites, the art of standing between reason and rapture without losing oneself to either. The third, destiny, was the deepest secret. Fate, the oracle taught, was not fixed, it was the reflection of consciousness. The thread of one's life was woven by inner perception. Change the mind, and destiny itself begins to rearrange. This was the quiet rebellion hidden beneath the temple's marble calm, that humans were not pawns of the gods but co-creators with them. In the dim chamber of prophecy, the Pythia embodied this truth. Her trance was a merging of the mortal and divine, symbolizing the potential of every human to unite with the higher self. The vapors that rose from the earth beneath her seat represented the voice of the unconscious, the deep, intuitive mind, rising to meet the clarity of spirit. When she spoke, she did not invent knowledge, she revealed it from within. Her voice was a bridge between the seen and unseen, echoing a truth that modern seekers still chase, that enlightenment is not gained, it is remembered. But the oracle's lessons were dangerous to the unprepared. Those who sought power, fame, or control often twisted her messages, unable to see that prophecy without self-awareness becomes a curse. The real initiation of Delphi was not to predict events but to awaken perception, to see one's life as a living myth, guided not by chance, but by the silent wisdom of the soul. This is why the oracle's voice remains eternal. It is not the sound of a woman in trance. It is the sound of truth whispered through every moment of awareness, waiting for you to listen. To truly grasp the depth of the oracle's wisdom, one must understand that her teachings were never meant for the mind alone. They were keys to states of consciousness. The ancient world knew that truth could not be told, it had to be experienced. This is why the oracle spoke in riddles, paradoxes, and symbols, because the literal mind could never contain the infinite. Only a mind softened by mystery could awaken to revelation. Consider again her famous injunction, "Know thyself," most interpreted as self-reflection, but the oracle's meaning was far more radical. To know thyself was to recognize that what you call yourself, the one who thinks, fears, desires, and strives, is but a shadow of a greater awareness observing through you. The self you think you are is a mask, and the true I is the eternal consciousness behind it. In Delphi, to know oneself was to awaken to the divine spark that looks out from behind human eyes. Another of her lesser-known teachings was the law of the echo. It stated that the universe reflects to you precisely what you are, not what you wish to be. Every event, every relationship, every challenge is a mirror revealing the state of your inner temple. The gods did not punish or reward, they responded. Your thoughts were offerings, your emotions were prayers, and your actions were the rituals that shaped reality. In this way, life itself was the oracle, forever answering the questions your soul was asking, whether you knew it or not. This is why the Delphic mysteries warn seekers to approach with purity of intent. To come before the oracle without self-awareness was to be blinded by your own projection. If your heart carried fear, her words would terrify you. If you came with pride, her message would humble you. The oracle did not create truth, she revealed your resonance with it. Through this, the ancients learned one of the most profound secrets of spiritual life, that divinity speaks not to you, but through you. Apollo was never a distant god. He was the light of awareness itself, the clarity that burns away illusion. The oracle's trance was a metaphor for surrender, to quiet the ego so completely that higher wisdom could finally be heard. But as time passed, humanity began to externalize what was meant to be internal. People started worshiping the god instead of embodying him, seeking prophecy instead of transformation. The flame of inner knowing dimmed beneath rituals and superstition. The Delphic wisdom became fragmented, its symbols scattered through philosophy, alchemy, and mysticism, waiting to be rediscovered by those who could read between the lines. What remains of Delphi today are ruins, broken columns, silent stones, and faded inscriptions. Yet, the true temple was never destroyed. It lives within each person who dares to look inward without fear. The oracle's voice was never silenced. It simply changed its language, speaking now as intuition, synchronicity, and the quiet pull of destiny that nudges you toward awakening. So when you hear the whisper of your inner knowing, the moment when time seems to pause and you just know what must be done, you are touching the same current that once moved through the oracle's lips. Her temple is no longer of marble, but of awareness. Her throne is the still point within you where intuition and spirit converge. And in that silence, if you listen long enough, you may hear the same ageless voice she once channeled. It will not predict your future. It will remind you that you are creating it. The oracle's wisdom was never meant to remain locked in stone temples or buried beneath myth. It was meant to be lived. Her teachings, though veiled in mystery, were profoundly practical once their symbols were understood. They were blueprints for awakening the divine awareness that still sleeps within us. To walk the path of Delphi today begins with the same command carved into her temple: know thyself. But how does one truly begin to know oneself in a world filled with noise, distraction, and illusion? Start with silence. The oracle spoke only after deep stillness, so too must you. Set aside moments each day to sit in quiet observation, not to control the mind, but to watch it. Observe your thoughts as you would clouds drifting across the sky. As you practice, you'll begin to see that you are not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the shifting stories of the mind. You are the awareness behind them, the same awareness that once spoke through the oracle herself. The second practice is reflection. The Delphic priests believed that every outer experience was a message from within. When something disturbs you, pause and ask, what in me is this reflecting? When something inspires you, ask, what part of me is being awakened? Through this, life becomes an active dialogue between your soul and the universe. You no longer wander blindly. You begin to interpret existence as a living oracle, revealing exactly what you need for your evolution. Third, remember the second Delphic maxim, nothing in excess. The oracle's wisdom reminds us that both shadow and light are sacred, but neither must dominate. Practice balance in all things, work and rest, speaking and silence, giving and receiving. The moment one aspect consumes the other, you fall out of harmony with your higher nature. Balance is not moderation out of fear. It is mastery born from understanding your own polarity. Fourth, learn to listen to your intuition, the inner voice that whispers beneath logic. It is not loud, demanding, or dramatic. It speaks softly, often as a knowing rather than a word. The oracle trained her spirit to listen to that voice completely, to trust it as divine truth. You can do the same by cultivating sensitivity. Trust your instincts, follow your resonance, and pay attention to the energy behind your choices. And finally, embody reverence. The people of Delphi approached the oracle with awe not because she was powerful, but because she reminded them of the sacredness of existence. Treat life itself as your temple. Speak with intention, act with clarity, and honor the unseen forces guiding your path. When you move through the world with awareness and gratitude, you begin to perceive the divine pulse that runs through all things. These are not rituals to perform once, they are ways of being. Over time, they sharpen perception, dissolve illusion, and awaken that ancient knowing that has always lived within you. Remember, the oracle's greatest gift was not prophecy but reflection. She showed others who they truly were. To follow her path today is to reclaim that same power, to become a mirror for truth, a vessel for wisdom, and a living temple of the divine. The oracle at Delphi may have fallen silent in the mountains of Greece, but her voice can rise again, through you. The oracle's voice may have faded from the marble chambers of Delphi, but her echo endures, subtle, eternal, alive within the human spirit. Her message was never meant for one age or one people. It was a reminder for all time. To know thyself is not merely to understand your past or your personality. It is to remember that beneath all change, beneath all striving, there is something infinite gazing through your eyes. The Delphic teachings were never about worshiping gods, but about becoming conscious of the divine within. The temple was only ever a mirror for the inner sanctuary of your being. Its smoke, its chants, its riddles, all symbols of a process still unfolding inside every seeker. The meeting of the mortal and the eternal, the human and the divine. Today, we no longer journey across mountains to seek an oracle. Instead, we journey inward. The modern temple is silence. The sacred vapor is the breath. The divine voice is intuition, the quiet knowing that speaks when the noise of the world fades. Each time you pause, reflect, and listen deeply, you step once again into Delphi's eternal chamber. And when you do, remember what the oracle truly taught, that destiny is not something written in stone, but something sculpted by the consciousness that perceives it. The world will mirror the truth you hold within. The universe will answer the questions you dare to ask of yourself. So the next time you stand at a crossroads, uncertain of your path, do not look to the heavens for a sign. Look within. The oracle's voice was never lost. It waits behind the stillness of your own awareness, ready to reveal that the light you seek has always been yours. Because the greatest prophecy ever spoken is the one whispered by your own soul. You are the oracle. If this journey through ancient wisdom stirred something within you, if it reminded you of the divine mystery you carry, then let your curiosity continue. The ancient world has not gone. It lives through those who remember. So listen, reflect, awaken,